Hi everyone, this is Megan from GoGPS, and today we're going to be covering the GeoTab Drive app as well as the DVIR and HOS portion of the software for your administrative side. Okay, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is logging into the Drive app. So what you're seeing right now is what your drivers would see on their smartphone or tablet when they go to log in. So you can see it says log in with a username. So there's my username. I always suggest to our clients, especially if they're brand new, just kind of getting into using the Drive app, that you choose the options button here at the top right corner, and you make sure that you put in the name of the database. Now, your smartphone or tablet are smart enough to know and hold on to the actual name of the database. So every time your drivers try to log into the app, it will remember where it's trying to, what location it's trying to log into, and it'll continuously do that. So my system or my vehicle is in the GoGPS database, so that's where it's going to be. You don't have to put the server name in there. I just happen to know my server name, so that's why it's there. So once your drivers have their username, the database in there, they can go ahead and hit the next button and they can enter in their password. So again, I've done this a few times, so we can see that my password is also saved as well. So this is really good, so that your drivers don't have to constantly be putting in their username and password every single time they log in, but it's always good to do it the first time, and then it'll remember it every time afterwards. So there it is there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the log in button. And what it's doing right now is it's looking for my logs. It's trying to synchronize my data. Oh, there it is, synchronizing my data. It's looking at my rule sets, all that kind of information. So it does remember my previous vehicle. So it does say Megan's Journey. It also uses this by proximity. So if you're taking your tablet with data on it, of course, or smartphone out into a parking lot full of vehicles, you're going to see a list of all the vehicles that are available. Now, if for some reason it's not able to get that, you won't see any vehicles, but that could be, maybe your data isn't communicating properly through the app, that sort of thing. So we won't worry about that too much. We'll just mainly focus on what we're seeing here. So if you can't see any vehicles, you can click in here and hit the space on your phone, and it'll give you a list of all the vehicles that belong to the system. So I'm actually just going to type Megan's Journey. I'm going to select it, and now it's going to kind of go through the exact same thing, synchronizing. It's going to ask me if I have a trailer that I want attached. For this training session, I'm not going to have any trailers, so I'm going to just hit the continue button. Same thing with attaching shipments. If there's none of that, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Okay, and then it's going to ask me to verify my logs. So I did some testing actually yesterday on this, and we did some training for another client, just showing lots of information, showing how to add logs into the system if for some reason, I had no internet, so I couldn't log out. Let's see what else I have down here. I have a bunch of drive logs, a bunch of off duty, a bunch of on duty. So it just kind of gives you a breakdown of everything that was prior for that date. I'm going to verify all my days. And this little certification here is saying, I hereby certify that my data entries and my records of duty status for each 24-hour period are true and correct. So just the same as your drivers would sign off on a paper log, this is their electronic signature. Okay, so I'm logging in as my user, which is accounted to myself, and I'm signing off on this. I'm going to hit agree. And now it's going to prompt me to go ahead and do my DVIR. So I'm going to do this as if I was going to go ahead and take my vehicle out for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and certify and inspect my previous inspection on this vehicle. Now, it's not always going to be the same person in the vehicle that did the inspection prior. It could be a completely different person. So for an example, Greg might have done the inspection yesterday, but I'm going to go, or a couple of hours ago. So I would go ahead and hit certify and inspect. I would take a look at the inspection that was done prior, whether it's by somebody else, Greg for an example, or myself. Make sure that everything looks okay. If there were any remarks, any violations, that we take a look and see if it needs repaired or if it was repaired. Okay. Gives you all that information, gives me the odometer, license plate, that kind of stuff there. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit certify previous inspection. It's automatically going to place me on duty. Okay, so right now I'm on duty to go ahead and do my inspection. Normal inspections take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. It all depends. I think the minimum that you're allowed to do is about 15 minutes. Okay, so we do have a few options here, and these are new items. So defects lists. There's a bunch of them inside of the GoGPS database, mainly because we do a lot of testing. Okay, so we can see there's an all okay and DVIR complete. There's a default vehicle defect list, which is the one I think we're going to take a look at today. Actually, you know what? No, we are going to do the Schedule 1 truck, tractor, and trailer, just because it gives lots of information. So before this wasn't an option. This is new, and it's a nice little feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the truck, tractor, and trailer. Okay, and we can see things like air brakes. Now, my journey does not have air brakes. We know this. Cargo securement, coupling devices, none of this stuff applies to my vehicle, but a lot of the companies that have DVIR and HOS that are requirements are big tractor trailers, stuff like that, that are going to need to have this. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go down the list here to show you all the items that it has. Now, there are subgroups to these groups. So for an example, there is air brake systems. If I click this little arrow on the right-hand side, this little drop down, it'll give me other items in here. So some of them are red and some of them are black. Okay, the difference between the two is something that we would adjust on the administrative side in the software portion to then reflect for your drivers. So the red means that it's a critical or a major defect, and the black means that it is a normal defect that, if there was a problem, you could still drive it. If it's a critical or a major, you cannot drive the vehicle. It needs to be repaired before you can continue on. Okay, so these are all set up on the back end of the administration portion through the software, and we've done this based off of the MTO requirements based out of Ontario. Okay, so if I hit the next section here for cargo securement, there's a few of them here that are red. One of them or two of them here are black, so there's no problems with that. Okay, and if I scroll down a little bit further, we get into some of the general stuff. So if I click the drop down here, okay, so you're only going to want to click off if there is a defect. If there are no defects, which I know my vehicle is 100% defect free. Okay, so I would scroll down here and I would put in whether it's a pre or a post. We're going to say that this is a pre-trip. So if there are no defects, you're not going to select anything. If there is a defect, for an example, tires, I'd click the drop down for tires. We'd say I had a flat tire, and then I could put, front driver side tire is flat. Okay, and then you can kind of scroll down here. When you do these DVIR inspections, you have to make sure that you put a remark in the very bottom portion here. So I can put in, for an example, if there were no defects, I would put, good or all good. If there was a defect, such as that flat tire, I could put going to fill up tire, on my way into the office, or maybe I would have a note saying mechanic has been notified about checking out this front driver side tire. Okay, so you can put any kind of remark in here. I'm going to go back up and I'm going to take out that defect here because there is no actual defect with my vehicle. Okay, so I'm just going to go down here. So nothing's being selected because I have no defects for my vehicle. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add a remark saying all good. And then I'm going to choose no defects. All right, so again, this is the same thing as the previous certification. I am signing my DVIR saying that it is in compliance with regional and or federal regulations. So this is my electronic log signature. So I'm going to say yes. Okay, now that's done, it's going to go ahead and prompt me to my dashboard. Now, some of our clients don't have or don't require the HOS portion, so they won't actually see this little HOS window here. It'll just have the DVIR, the messages, and then as well as the, I think, the name of the vehicle down here and the inspection and settings button. Everything else that you're seeing in between is more of a custom add-in. So we have, a button here for US 8-day border crossing, USA 7-day border crossing. We do a lot of testing in here. This is buttons that we can use if we want to cross the border, so it changes the rule set for us. We have things for Geotab roadside, fuel trackers, ELD information, and then our privacy mode. So we do a lot of testing in here. You will not see those sections. Okay, and again, if you do not require HOS for your company, you will not see that as a driver. You'll only have the DVIR and the message section. Okay, so I am currently on duty. So I'm going to go ahead and click the HOS button here, and it's going to give me my cycles. So it tells me, what what cycle I'm in. So I'm in the Canada 7-day cycle 1 because I'm based out of Ontario, and that is my rule set. I do have my start time of the day is midnight, so 12 a.m. Driving time left, I have 9 hours. Duty left, I have 12 hours and 21 minutes, et cetera, all the way through the entire system. Okay, so it gives you a good breakdown of all the information. We can do a view cycle recap. We can look at viewing exemptions. So not every driver has the options for exemptions. On the back end, as an administrator, you have to allow the driver the ability to have, I think it's the yard move and the personal conveyance. Those are not mandatory. That is something that the owner of the company or the supervisor can then apply to each driver. Okay, but it does have the adverse driving conditions and off-duty deferral. All right, so those are my exemptions. So I'm going to scroll back up here. So now that I have finished my inspection and I am ready to go ahead and drive, I'm going to mount my tablet or smartphone, and I'm going to just go ahead and start my drive. I don't have to touch any of the buttons on the app itself because it will automatically switch over to drive. I think Greg was saying to me yesterday that it's after 5 miles, it'll automatically switch over to drive, and it will sync up and log all the information. Now, this is all cloud-based, so there might be a small delay, but the system will synchronize and match everything up afterwards. Okay, it's not too much of a delay, of course, but it does happen. Okay, so if I'm driving down the road and then I'm going to go ahead and stop and maybe get some gas, it'll go ahead and switch over automatically to on duty. It will check in with me to say, okay, have you stopped driving? It just wants to double check. If that's the case, you can then say, yes, I have stopped driving. It'll edit the logs to say, okay, you went on duty. So I say I pumped some gas, I'm on duty, and then I'm going to go ahead and start driving again. The system will then update and continue saying that I'm driving. Now, you can put yourself in sleeper berth when you're done your portion of the day that you required to be traveling, and then, of course, go into sleeper berth. When you're done with sleeper berth, you can then go back on duty. So that's really the only time that you'll need to touch it, aside from logging off when you're done your day. So you would change your status. Again, this is really the only time you're going to have to touch the buttons. You'll choose the off button here, and then you'll log out. So once I go through the other couple of tabs in this Drive app, I'll then show you how to properly log off, change your status to off duty, and then log out of the app itself. Okay. So again, this is just the HOS status. We're going to take a look at the graphs. Now, if I hit the graph button up here in the top center, it's going to give me a breakdown of my logs in graph form, and then when we hit the next tab to the right, it'll give me my logs. So we can see here how much off duty I have, how much on duty, and the reason why it is gray so far is because it's not verified. These are unverified logs. When I go to log out for the end of the day, it will prompt me to go ahead and verify all my logs and certify them. And that is exactly what good behavior we want your drivers to learn, is to make sure that they're verifying their logs at the end of each day and that they're logging out properly. Okay, because that's huge. That'll save you a lot of time. Okay, so that is my logs for today. If I hit the little back arrow button here, it'll show me my previous days. So I think we were doing some testing in the section around here around in between 3 and 8 p.m. Okay, I was doing a bunch of testing here. All right, and if I want to go back another couple days, I could do that. That's Tuesday, and that's Monday. Now, I do want to show you something that I did kind of bring up yesterday in my training session. I'm going to go back quite a few days. This here is only viewable right now that we're looking at. This is for the driver. So the driver can see here that there are some violations because they're red down below. Okay. When this is seen by an inspector, they will not see that red bar. This is only for the driver that's currently seeing this. There is an inspection mode, which I will get to in another couple clicks, and I will show you that the inspector is not going to be seeing that. So if you were in violation, they wouldn't know. They would have to kind of do that work to be able to find out, okay, were you in violation? if so, what was the violation, that kind of stuff. So it's not going to just raise their hand and say, hey, I was in violation, right? Just so that you guys know that. All right, so I'm going to go back to today's date. There we go. Okay, so that's the graph. We're going to take a look at the logs. So I'm going to hit the logs button here. All right, so we can see there's my pre-trip. Okay. All right, we can see continued from the previous day. So sometimes when drivers forget to log out of the app, instead of it having the off duty here at the end of the day, it'll still say on and then continued from previous day. If that's the case and your driver does forget to do that, they can always add a log into the system to, just like I did right here where it said no internet connection, so I couldn't log out. I added this log into the system and made an annotation to say that this is the reason why I couldn't log out was because there was no internet, and it will adjust their log so that it shows them that they were off duty and it doesn't mess with their hours thinking that they're still on duty. The only logs that you cannot alter, or I shouldn't say alter, the only logs that you cannot adjust are drive logs, because that is right from your vehicle. That's something that you can't change. If the vehicle is being driven, somebody has to be assigned to it. Okay, even if it's a personal conveyance, you need to make sure that you're choosing personal conveyance and then driving. And then if you stop somewhere and then have to go back into personal conveyance, you have to make sure that you tell the system that again. Okay, so it's not going to continue holding on to that personal conveyance. You have to tell the system. Okay, so I'm just going to log down here a little bit to take a look. So there's the 4th. We're going to go down a little bit more. There's the 3rd. Okay, so it does hold, some information here. It only does like the previous, I think it's either 14 or 17 days, depending on what your rule set is for. Okay. So again, if your driver needs to add a log because they forgot to log out, there is a little plus button here at the top right corner. They can click that. They would select the status that they need it to be. In most cases, it's going to be off duty. Then they're going to choose the date range. So today or yesterday at the end of the day, and then you're going to hit done. And then you always have to make sure that the vehicle you're applying it to, which the system is smart enough, it knows that it's going for my vehicle. But then you have to put an annotation saying forgot to log out. Okay. Once you're done that, you would then hit add, and it would then show inside of the system here inside your logs. Now, if you do add logs, you will have to verify no matter what for it to be able to adjust and show that you're no longer, out of hours. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so the next tab up here we have is options. So I'm going to hit the options button here, and it's going to just show me information such as, the current driver for this app, the time zone that I'm in, my home terminal. My rule set is the Canada 7-day cycle 1, tells me the time that my day starts at. And then previously, because they've done a lot of updates to this HOS, or not even just HOS, but for the Drive app. So the inspection mode used to be in this section. But because they did make some updates, they have redirected us to go to the dashboard, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to hit the dashboard button here. Okay, and it's going to bring us back to our dashboard. And if I just scroll down a little bit, we're going to be able to see the inspection button here. So I'm going to hit the inspection button. And from this point, all you have to do is hand over your smartphone or tablet to the inspector, and they have the ability to take a look at your HOS or your DVIR. So most of them are going to start with the DVIR tab to make sure that there's no defects on the vehicle. So they'll hit the DVIR tab. They'll choose the review button. It'll give them all the information that's provided. You can see here if there was any remarks such as there was a defect and maybe it was that flat tire that we were seeing a few seconds ago there. You could see that in the session there. And then if you scroll down, it says that there's no defects, which is great. Now they also have the ability to view the defect list that you're doing your inspection. So if they hit that, they can then see all of the items that you're inspecting. Okay, they can also see if there's any critical or normal options in here. Okay. Okay. So then that's the DVIR section for the inspector. They'll go back up to the top here and choose the back button. They'll then take a look at the HOS tab here. Now, I will show you that there's two buttons here, the email and the web service. This is not for Canada. This is for US only, because we are not mandated yet to have this roll out. It won't go anywhere if you try to do it. Okay, it does not work for Canada so far. So these are just two buttons for the US. But if the inspector chooses the and the inspector will know this, so don't worry. But if they want to take a look at the compliance print, they can choose that button there. And it will go ahead and load the ELD report for specific date ranges. So it just shows September 5th on this one here. It tells me my current date, my ELD provider, my rule set that I'm assigned to, lots of information in here. Okay, and then it gets into the graph. So we can see the graph for today. I was off duty until about, I don't even know what time that was, almost 9. And then I went on duty. Okay, and then I was on duty for quite some time. And I'm still currently on duty, which is fine. Okay, it also tells you specific logs. So we can see that I was disassociated from the vehicle. I then assign myself back to the vehicle, which is something that, during testing, that's what I do on purpose. I can also see all my previous logs for up to, I think it's 14 days for my rule set. Okay. So if I go back up here, we can take a look at that. So we can go September 5th. There's the 4th. Come on. The 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st. So we can go back as far as we need. Technically it's as far back as the rule set allows it to go. Okay, so let's see. So it's only going back until the 22nd as of today's date. Okay. So if I go back to that 23rd, and I do remember showing you in here for this date that I did have some violations for my user, it will not show the inspector that. Again, it's not going to show them that there's any violations. There's no little red lines or something like that. That's up for them to figure out if you're actually in violation. Okay, so there's all that information there. All right, so now that they've taken a look at your compliance report, the inspector is going to then go ahead and leave the inspection mode. Okay, and by doing that, they're going to hit the X button at the top right, and they're going to hand back the smartphone or tablet to the driver. Excuse me. The driver is then going to hit the continue button, and then they can go ahead and continue on with their day. Okay, so again, if your vehicle is going through an inspection, all you have to do as a driver is scroll down, hit the inspection button, and then hand your phone or tablet over to the inspector. They'll hand it back when they're done. Okay. If they do require information, they can, I'm just going to leave the inspection mode here, such as your logs. They can always contact the administrators on the software side and request information in regards to specific days. And then as an administrator, you can then email that information to the inspector once you've had contact with them. Okay. All right. So this is pretty much summing up the system here. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my rule set my status for my vehicle. I'm going to manually put myself off duty because I'm done my shift for the day. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put myself off duty. We'll give it a second here. And I just wanted to show that restoration just showed up here. So it will continue to count. And generally, if you go, again, it's based on your rule set, if you go off duty before the mandatory 30-minute break, it will prompt you and let you know, do you really want to stop your your consecutive break? Because you do need to have 2 30-minute breaks in a certain span time. So it just does a good prompt. It is very specific. So even if you're, done 29 minutes and 54 seconds, it will prompt you and say, hey, you haven't hit that 30-minute mark. Are you sure you want to change your status? Okay. So I'm done for the day. I'm going to go ahead and I hit the off status. So I'm now off duty and I'm going to log out of the app. So to do that, I'm going to click the name of my username at the top right of the screen, and I'm going to choose to log out. I do want to mention here that there is the ability to have a tandem driver here, so you can add a driver and they can kind of do the exact same thing. So if I'm the first driver, I've done my day, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to sleeper berth. The other driver can then, click that little drop down there, select the new driver, and then they can go ahead and be, part of their shift and start doing their driving. So if you have any questions about that, you can always feel free to contact us. We can walk you through that. That's not a problem. For today, I'm just going to go ahead and log out. It's going to prompt me and ask me to verify all of my logs that I have. So there's only a few of them for today, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and say verify all days. This again is me certifying my logs to say that everything is accurate and true. I'm going to say agree, and now it's logging me out of the system. So there it is. So again, as I mentioned when we first logged in here, it does hold on to your username and your database as well as your password. It just more wants to have somebody manually log in the sense of hitting next and then log in. Okay. All right. So that is the Drive app. So that's what your drivers are going to be using. It's really good for management or administrative teams to also know how to use the app. So just in case your drivers do call and have any questions, you can kind of walk them through this section as well. There is a lot of stuff online in regards to ELD and the proper usage of it. If you have questions, we have brochures, that kind of stuff. Everything can be emailed to you for documentation in regards to the ELD program here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now and hop over to the dashboard, to the software portion for the administrative side in regards to ELD. All right, so inside of the software, there's lots of different things that you can do. You have the ability to take a look at HOS logs from the system here. So I'm going to choose the the activity button on the right hand or the left hand side, select HOS, and then it gives me some more little options. So I have the duty status logs, I have violations, and I have availability. So if I choose duty status logs, this section here prompts me to choose a date range. So I'm going to choose this week, and I'm going to select my specific user. So we're going to type in Megan. I have a couple of them in here, so I want to make sure I get the right one. There it is. And I'm going to apply changes. So it's going to show all of the logs, the same thing as what the driver sees inside of the app. You're going to be able to see all of that in this section here. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down here. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So we're going to scroll down and we can see all of the logs. Okay. As an administrator side, you do have the ability to add logs for your drivers too. In case they forget to log out, they can contact you and you can make that adjustment for them. But at the same time, it's really good to get your drivers used to updating their logs if, for some reason they did forget to log out. Okay. It's really good because they have to verify it whether you do it or they do it themselves. Okay. So we can see here, there's a log that I added into the system that I forgot to log out. So we can see that's a manual log done by myself and it has been verified. Okay. We can also do that compliance print on our end too. So just in case somebody does contact us from the ministry, you can choose to hit the print button. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but from this print section here, you can save this as a PDF and then you can send it to whomever requires that information. So it's the exact same thing as what they would see in the app. It's going to have the information for the date, time, the ELD provider, the driver's name, truck number, all that kind of stuff. It has the graph and then it has the logs. Okay, so here where it says destination, you can click that and choose to save as a PDF. Okay, so there it is. Perfect. Okay. You can also choose to open this up into a report format for you to view. Now, keep in mind, GoGPS does a lot of testing inside of their database, which is what we're currently looking at. So you might not see the bottom 4 reports, but that's okay. If it's something that kind of, strikes you and you want more information, you can always let us know and we can put those types of reports inside of your system so that you can play around with them. There is a basic report and the advanced report. The advanced report always just gives more information. We always suggest using the advanced report so that you can see as much as you want. And then if you need to filter or, I don't want to say minimalize what you're seeing, but if you only want a couple columns, you can do that as well instead of only getting the basic information but wanting more. Okay. We also have the ability to set these reports up to be automated and email out to you on a regular basis. So if this is something that you want automated, again, you can contact us and we can walk you through how to turn on the email notifications for any of the logs regarding to HOS or DVIR. All right, so also underneath that HOS tab, we have violations. So if I choose the violations button, I'm going to choose, let's do a custom date range because I wanted to make sure I get in that August 23rd where I was in some serious violations. So I'm going to choose from August 23rd until September 5th, which is today's date. I'm going to choose my name here and apply changes. And then it's going to give me all of the violations. So again, this is something that happens when drivers forget to log out. Because I'm not mandated. I don't need to actually do it. I drive a journey. They don't require HOS logs. I tend to forget to log out quite often, to be honest. But this is what happens in most cases if your drivers do forget to log out. We do have other other reports, which I will get to in a few seconds here, that can notify you if a driver forgets to log out or if they're close to a violation. So you can take a look at the violations here. You can choose to view the logs that are based off of that to kind of pinpoint and find out exactly what's causing it. And then also, lastly, in here, there's the availability. So if I choose that option, it's going to show me all of the available drivers as well as the not available drivers. Okay, so I want to just point out something here that Greg mentioned to me yesterday when we were doing some training, is these top 3 drivers don't have a rule set applied to them, so that's why they do not have any information to the right of it. Okay, because you do have the ability to be a driver in the system but not have a rule set. The rule set is only if you are required to follow a specific rule set. Some of our clients have drivers that just want to be assigned to vehicles and don't actually require HOS or DVIR. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If it ever shows up like that and you're curious as to why, it's because there's no rule set assigned to them. We can see my other Megan account here has, a good amount of cycle left, tells us about work days, my duty time. How about my other driver that I normally use? Here it is. So it shows me my cycle available tomorrow is 21 hours. I have 8 hours and 45 minutes left of drive time. Duty, I have 12 hours. Work days, almost 14 hours. And then cycle is 4 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, so it just gives a really good information in regards to availability or not available. Okay. And I will say the reason why these ones down here are not available is because they've also forgotten to log out. So that is it's an ongoing thing with with our drivers. Again, we just do it for testing. It's not something that we're required to have. Okay. So that is our HOS section. I'm now going to go to our engine and maintenance and choose the DVIR button here. And we can take a look at all of the DVIRs that have been completed within a certain time range. Now, a lot of our clients will go for seeing reports run by everything because they want to see defects, they want to see repairs, they want to see certifications, all of that. So I'm going to choose this week and I'm going to select my specific vehicle. I don't have any trailers, but if I was to, I could choose, I haven't assigned a trailer to myself, but if I did, I could choose one of the trailers from the drop down and take a look at any of the DVIRs that were completed on that, and then choose apply changes, and there it is. Okay, so we can see quite a bit of information. Now we do see that there was one down here. I did again for testing, I did that I had a defect. So if I click on it, it'll actually give me more information. It'll tell me the date and the time as to when the DVIR was completed, the location. We have a specific template as all okay and DVIR complete. One of our clients wanted that specifically, so we have to have it as a defect. They select that off so they know that it's been completed. If that's something you're interested in, again, you can contact us and we can walk you through that. Okay. So there it is. So the repair was not necessary because there was not anything actually wrong. Everything is all good. And then it's been certified by myself. Okay. Perfect. All right. So there's all the logs. I do want to point out the difference between the 3 of them below and the top one up here is the check mark. The check mark means that it has been certified. Now, if I was to log back into the Drive app and do another inspection on my vehicle, it would require me to certify the previous inspection. Once that's done, this log up here for my DVIR that was done about a half an hour ago, it would then have a check mark beside it saying that it has been certified. So that's the only difference between these couple of logs here. The ones below have been certified, and this one here has not been certified yet. It's not super imperative for you to go ahead and have that done, but it is something that will happen while you're throughout the process of having inspections completed. Okay. You can go ahead and print this or, change this DVIR view into a report. Again, we have lots of different reports in our system for testing, and I'm going to get to that in a quick second. I just wanted to lightly touch on the defect list. Now, the defect list is what list your drivers are going to be going through to do the inspections. The system comes with a couple generic ones like the default trailer, the default vehicle one, and then I think we have the ability to add the Schedule 1 truck, tractor, and trailer. But you can always adjust them. So I see here our general manager, Kevin, actually created a basic DVIR for him to play around with. Okay. So he's got equipment, he's got paint, he's got tires, just some basic stuff that he wants to play around with. We do these testings for a lot of our clients. So that's what we're seeing here. It's applied to a specific group. Okay. I'm just going to hit the back button here so we can go back. I'm going to go and look at that Schedule 1 truck, tractor, and trailer. I know I lightly touched on this when we were inside of the Drive app for the drivers, but on the software portion of the side here, this is where we would adjust whether or not they are a critical or a normal. And it is dependent as to where you're located as what the requirements are. This here is based off of, again, I'm based out of Ontario, so this is based off of the MTO requirements. So I know that if my vehicle has an air brake system, I have to make sure there's no air loss exceeds a prescribed limit. There's no audible air leaks. Push rods are fine. There's no slow air pressure buildup, nothing like that, because those are critical. Again, based on the MTO, those are critical defects. So if at any point in time my vehicle has any of those problems, I cannot drive my vehicle until they have been repaired. Okay. So when the system first takes a look, here we go, at the defect list, everything in here is black, and it is the customer is responsible to adjust it based off of what their needs are. Okay, so air loss, audible, push rods, slow air pressure, all of those are black, and it is up to them based off of the location as to what it is, as to them to go in and update it, whether it's a critical or a normal. So I could change it back to a normal. I don't want that because it's not. It is a critical. So I would choose that and hit the check mark, and it will go ahead and adjust it. So for an example, if I wanted to change the occupant compartment door fails to open, I would hit the little pencil. I would choose to make that a critical and hit the check mark. It's now red. Okay, I'm going to change it back because it is not a critical. It is a normal for us. And there it is. Okay, so that is our defect list. As I mentioned, you can adjust it in regards to adding parts. So some of our clients like to add in extra equipment. Okay, we can add a part, and then you can add extra things in here. So this could be safety kit. Okay, so it's unregulated, but it's something we want to make sure that they're taking a look at when they're doing the inspection. They want to make sure that they do have their safety kit. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I don't want that to show up the next time. I'm going to hit remove, and there it is. Okay, so I'm not going to save any of this because I don't want any of the changes to be there. But I just wanted to show you what the options and the customization that you can do for the schedule or the defect list in general. Okay, so I know that this is a fairly lengthy session, so thank you so much for sticking with me. There is one more section that I want to take a look at, and that's more of the administration for reports. Now, we do have lots of reports available for DVIR and HOS. We have a lot that we're working on in our system here, a lot of custom ones. So if there's something that you're looking for that you're not seeing in your system, please let us know. And if we don't already have it, we can more than likely customize it for you. So just looking at our custom section right off the top here, we have some DVIR advanced logs with certification costs. Greg, my sales manager, likes to name them a little bit funny, which is totally normal. We have some DVIR alerts every 30 minutes. So that can prompt, maybe a mechanic or a supervisor to let them know every 30 minutes if a DVIR has been completed, if there's any defects, that kind of stuff. There's one here that says DVIR yes or no. So that's super important. If the DVIR is okay but not sending, like there's lots of different stuff in here. So these are all of our custom ones. Let's go down to some HOS. So there's some HOS ones here. There's a small fleet payroll, driver payroll one. There's a possible logout issue. So that one's huge. We do like to have that set up. And you can put these on your dashboard, which is how GoGPS has ours set up right now. So that when you first log into your database, which is what we're currently looking at, you can see, okay, is there any possible logout issues? Do I need to contact a driver and say, hey, you need to add a log, you forgot to log out, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's really good to have. Or you can have it emailed to you on a regular basis too, whether it be daily, weekly, or monthly. All right. There's some more driver logs with kilometers and time, and then there's another version of that down here. Okay. We also have HOS violations, dispatch, notify dispatch if driver is approaching the limit. So if they're close to hitting their limit before they go over, you can always have that report set up to send out again to a dispatcher or to a supervisor to then contact them and say, hey, you need to take a break. You need to not go over your limit. Okay. So that's just a nice little cover as to our software side of it here. If anybody has any questions in regards to HOS, DVIR, the Drive app, you can always feel free to contact myself or Greg. Or actually, we have a full support team down in the Florida as well. Depending on your browser as well as your database style, there's a support button that's going to be up here at the top right. If I click that, it gives you the contact information for us. So it tells us the reseller, it tells us the location. Again, we have a Florida location. We have to update that. They moved to Sarasota. So that's going to be changed to the Sarasota location. I'm currently out of Ontario. So if you contact or you call this number here and you ask for service or you hit the service number, it'll come to one of our support team members. So I think that that pretty much covers our DVIR, HOS, as well as Drive app. So I'm going to go ahead and close our session for today. So thank you, everyone.